The soft chime of the wind against the porch chimes was the only sound Martha could hear as she poured herself a cup of tea. At 72, mornings in her modest lakeside home in Michigan had become quiet rituals, a pause in time where silence wasn't an absence, but a presence. It had been 4 years since her husband passed. Harold had been her anchor, the keeper of all her years and memories. And with him gone, the world had shifted under her feet. Martha had always been composed. She kept her grief folded neatly behind the smile she offered the mailman, the cashier, or the neighbor's boy who mowed her lawn. She still made the bed every morning, still watered Harold's azaleas, and still pretended she was doing fine. But there were days when the silence pressed too heavily against her chest. Days when she walked into the living room expecting to see his newspaper folded on the armrest. Days when she nearly called out to him. It was on such a day that the letter came. It was from Lillian, her sister. They hadn't spoken in nearly 30 years. Not since the autumn of '93, when a family disagreement tore apart what had once been a bond closer than bone. Martha's hand trembled slightly as she held the envelope. It was handwritten, the curves of the ink unmistakably familiar. She sat in her favorite chair, one Harold had fixed up years ago, and slowly opened it. Dear Martha, I'm sorry it took me this long. Think of you often. I don't expect anything from this letter. Just, maybe you still remember the creek behind Aunt Ellen's cabin. If you do, I'll be there this Sunday. I'll bring the old red thermos. If you come, I'll know you remember too. Lillian. Martha reread the note 3 times. Her tea went cold. The air felt still. The next morning she packed a scarf, a sweater, and the old photo of them as girls, laughing with their bare feet in the muddy water of the creek. Her hands hesitated over it before she tucked it gently into her purse. Sunday arrived cloudy. The sky hung heavy as Martha drove for the first time in weeks. Her fingers gripped the wheel a little tighter with every mile. She didn't know if Lillian would be there. She didn't even know what she'd say if she was. But something in her needed to go. The trees were starting to turn. Crimson and amber leaves floated like memory confetti along the gravel path. When she reached the clearing behind Aunt Ellen's old cabin, she saw a figure sitting on a log near the creek, red thermos in hand. Lillian stood slowly as Martha approached. They stared at each other for a long moment, neither smiling nor crying, just seeing. All those years of silence cracked open in the stillness of the forest. Martha took the final steps and sat beside her. You kept it, she said, nodding at the thermos. I never threw it away, Lillian replied. I never threw any of it away. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. They passed the thermos back and forth like communion, the warmth of the tea seeping into their palms. Time, so cruel and unforgiving, had not taken everything. It had left behind a thread, and now they were pulling at it, gently, carefully, but together. In the days that followed, Martha found herself reaching for her phone. Short message. A picture of her garden. A note about a book she thought Lillian would like. She began looking forward to her walks again. She dusted off the sketchbook she hadn't touched since Harold's death. She even bought new paints. That winter, she and Lillian met halfway between their homes for lunch every other Saturday. They shared stories that filled the empty spaces left by the years they had lost. And every now and then, Martha caught herself laughing in the middle of a story. Not a polite chuckle, but a laugh that made her eyes water and her chest shake. One evening, as she sat by the fire sketching the silhouette of a tree outside her window, Martha thought of the way silence used to feel like an end. But now it was a beginning. Canvas. A space waiting to be filled with color, words, and warmth. She hadn't just reconnected with her sister. She had rediscovered herself.